Peter Obi, his story continues. Again, the Peter Obi mystique has come alive. His bid for the presidency is unearthing the intricate details of his intriguing personality. He ventured onto the Nigerian political scene in 2003. But not until he was sworn in as the governor of Anambra State in March 2006 did he become a subject of exciting discourse. His journey to the government house in Awka was rough. But he weathered the storm. You could say that he happened upon the Nigerian political landscape like a comet. Little was known of him before then. But his coming heralded a new day and a new order. He did not want to step into anybody's shoes. Rather, he ambled gingerly into his own shoes. He had his own ways, and he pursued them with astonishing conviction. For the Nigerian political scene that rests largely on received norms and conventions, Obi's out-of-the-way disposition to politics was a jolt. It was received with consternation and disquiet in political circles. A few daring ones around him contemplated a revolt. But their wings were clipped by the originality and depth of his convictions. Many resented him quietly. But their resentment amounted to nothing. The new kid on the block knew his onions. Where was this man coming from? For a man whose material comfort, even before he became governor, was reasonably high, Obi's simplicity and disdain for primitive acquisition baffled many. He was something of an ascetic in government house. At first, some were tempted to imagine that he was a flash in the pan. But his steely disposition endured beyond their imagination. But then, the system would not allow itself to be run over by this strange man who played a strange brand of politics. And sir, from the very beginning, he fought wars, the type that would sweep many off their feet. Significantly, he won spectacularly on many fronts. That was how he became a phenomenon in Nigerian politics. By the time he was stepping out in 2014, he had established a formidable political ideology founded on transparency, accountability and due process. 2 months after Obi left office, I had cause, in this column, to reflect on what I called the Peter Obi Legacy Notes. Aspects of the reflection published in The Sun of May 29, 2014, reads thus: one of the major reasons for which Obi got a national acclamation was his prudent management of the scarce resources of the state he presided over. We were told as the man was leaving office that he saved over N75 billion for Anambra State. That sounded like a story from a book in a country where state governments live and operate with borrowed funds. In today's Nigeria, bonds have become the live wire of nearly all the states of the Federation. States float bonds freely in order to finance infrastructural projects. The revenues that accrue to them either through the Federation account or via their internally generated revenues are never taken into account. Nobody has been told why states cannot survive with these revenues. The fashion now is to go to the capital market to borrow. But the real tragedy is that most of the funds from the bonds are ingeniously diverted to other unwholesome uses. The true story of our situation is that these bonds have thrown many states into debilitating debt overhang. Significantly, Obi, as governor of Anambra State, did not join the borrowing fray. Rather, he dutifully ran Anambra State like a business venture, resulting in the huge savings we are talking about. As I said earlier, such a record does not sound real in the Nigeria that you and I live in. We are encouraged the more by the fact that the financial institutions, which are in custody of the over N75 billion saved by Obi for Anambra State, have provided proof of evidence to back up Obi's claim. They have put the matter in the public domain and anybody who is in doubt is free to verify from them. A glance at Obi's handover report shows that local investments as at March 14, 2014, stood at N27 billion, foreign currency investment US $156 million, or N26.5 billion, and certified state MDA's balances N28.1 billion. However, the sum of N5 billion covering the state's estimated liability, including March salaries, pension and gratuity as well as approved certificates of already executed projects, was deducted from this, leaving the state with a net balance of N76.6 billion. This figure is covered by investment mandates from Access Bank, Diamond Bank and Fidelity Securities Limited, showing details of the investment instruments. With these mandates from the aforementioned financial institutions, those who are in doubt as to the authenticity of Obi's claims may well contact them. This is an uncommon achievement, which other state governors should try to emulate. If Obi had just saved money for the state without embarking on development projects, we would query the essence of the savings. But it is gratifying to know that he bequeathed many landmark projects to the state. With this all-round achievement, those who are genuinely interested in improving the lot of their states but who may not know how to do it should feel free to take lessons from the Peter Obi model. This was the situation by the end of May 2014. Curiously, Willie Obiano, Obi's successor, out of nowhere, strutted out with some disputations. He was obviously ill at ease with the fact that the surpluses bequeathed to him were made public. Then he began to struggle, rather vainly, to discredit Obi's figures. Even though Obiano's denials did not stick, he succeeded in spewing some bad blood in the process. This eventuated in a strained relationship between him and his predecessor. 8 years after, Obiano has left office. But his footsteps were immediately trailed by disrepute. Hours after leaving office, he was nabbed by operatives of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission over allegations of sleaze and corrupt enrichment. The story out there is that Obiano mismanaged the resources of Anambra State in a most horrendous manner. The Anti-Graft Commission was still questioning Obiano when the newly sworn-in governor of Anambra State, Professor Chukwuma Soludo, made public the financial situation that he met. Soludo announced that he inherited about N$400 million in cash and a debt of over N$100 billion. With this huge debt overhang, Obiano has created a problem of smooth financial takeoff for his successor. This is in sharp contrast with the rosy financial state that Obi left for him. Obi, you would say, has been vindicated. But even with Obiano's pettiness, Obi's stature remained on the upward swing. 8 years after leaving office, Obi has stepped out to run for the office of President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. A lot of goodwill is trailing his quest. His bid for the presidency is being received with wide acclaim. His legacy in Anambra State remains his selling point. You could say that his fame precedes his aspiration.
Nigerian problem challenges statesmanship, Obi says in London. A former governor of Anambra State and frontline aspirant for the 2023 presidency, Mr. Peter Obi, has described the problem with Nigeria as mostly economic. Obi was speaking on Monday in London shortly after the meeting of selected persons among the Commonwealth countries with the Prime Minister of Britain, Mr. Boris Johnson, at his 10 Downing Street office. Obi, who disclosed that the meeting essentially deliberated on trade and investment among Commonwealth countries, also said it touched passionately on how the United Kingdom and other Commonwealth countries would encourage investment in Africa and how the African Free Trade Agreement should be made to function actively so that African countries would reap positive benefits from it. Obi lamented that trade among African countries was very low, and called on African leaders to look inwards and concentrate more on the economic problems facing the continent that often result to political problems. He argues that when a continent gets her economy right, it would pull a lot of people out of poverty, thus reducing tension and insecurity usually associated with poverty. Obi, who also took the opportunity to meet the UK Minister for Africa, Vicky Ford, disclosed that he discussed issues affecting Africa, especially Nigeria, with her. In Obi's words, we discussed about democracy and political stability, trade and investment, education, especially the out-of-school issue, as well as security matters with her. Lamenting on the state of the country, Obi said that what is happening now is a challenge to statesmanship and called on everybody that has the capacity to help, to come forward and do so.
We don't tell for Egypt, Pharaoh, let my people go. They don't come again, no. Last, if you check them, not the same people. Ladies and gentlemen, una never die for 3 cups of rice and 15 naira salt. The handwriting is crystal clear. Shine your eyes. We are tired of ASU strikes. 4 years course now, don't reach 6 years without carryover. Wahala, wahala, wahala. Many expensive certificates like this, they inside rats beleo. If you know, you know. 4 years course where you study. 15 years now, he never still get work. He come be like school and scam when education is key. We don't need to go use the country, collect loan of small money. When one as the man they use do give away in the name of the country is broke. We never tired to see children begging and running around express roads in the name of working one shit or another. Too bad. Every pikin, rich or poor, suppose they're entitled to free basic education. You get one gentleman who will bring solutions to all these things once and for all. Who be that man again? Only one Peter Obi. This is the time. Get your PVCs ready. We are outside massively to push in the right candidates into the right position. Make we feel see right results.